He walked into a hotel restroom to prepare for a billion-dollar deal, and froze. A little boy at the sink copied his every move, same eyes, same posture, same face. The child looked up and said, "Mom says I got this from my father." Victor never had children, or so he thought. Victor Liang had built his life on precision. Every minute of his day was scheduled. Every decision calculated. Every weakness buried under tailored suits and quarterly profits. As CEO of Liang International Holdings, he was known across Asia as the man who never hesitated. People feared his silence more than shouting. But that morning, standing alone in the executive restroom of a luxury Beijing hotel, Victor hesitated. He stared into the mirror, loosening his tie. The merger meeting ahead would decide billions. His pulse was steady until a small sound echoed behind him. A stool scraping against marble. Victor glanced sideways. A little boy, no more than 5, had climbed onto the sink beside him. The child hummed softly while washing his hands, legs swinging. Victor frowned. The boy frowned. Victor leaned closer to the mirror. The boy leaned closer too. Victor crossed his arms, annoyed at his own nerves. The boy crossed his arms. Same angle, same impatience, same tiny scowl. Victor's breath caught. This wasn't coincidence. It was like looking at his own reflection, 25 years earlier. The boy looked up and said calmly, "You always do that face when you're thinking too hard." Victor's heart stopped. "Do what face?" he asked. The boy demonstrated it perfectly. Victor stepped back, hand gripping the counter. "Where is your father?" he asked slowly. The boy shrugged. "Don't know him." Then, like a punch delivered gently but precisely, the child added, "But Mommy says I have his eyes." Outside the restroom stood a woman Victor had spent 8 years trying to forget, and failing. Ava Thompson. A Black American woman with a presence that didn't demand attention, yet commanded it anyway. Her skin was deep and warm, her eyes sharp but tired, like someone who had learned to be strong because no one else would do it for her. 2 more boys stood beside her. Identical. Triplets. Victor's knees weakened. Ava's face drained of color when she saw him. "No," she whispered. "Not you." The boys turned, curious. One said, "Mommy, why does that man look like Noah grown up?" Another asked, "Is he famous?" The third just stared, quiet, observant, already understanding too much. Victor swallowed. "Ava, are they?" "They're mine," she cut in sharply. "And don't you dare finish that sentence out loud." 8 years earlier, New York City. Victor was younger then, ambitious, newly sent to the US to oversee an expansion. Ava had been the lead data analyst on the project, brilliant, fearless, unafraid to challenge him in meetings full of men twice her age. They argued. They laughed. They fell in love quietly, dangerously. For the first time, Victor imagined a life not designed by his family or board. Then the pressure came. His mother warned him, "A Black American woman will ruin your standing." The board reminded him, "Your future wife must be strategic." His legacy whispered, "Love is temporary. Power is permanent." When Ava told him she was pregnant, fear dressed itself as logic. Victor never replied. He convinced himself silence was cleaner than rejection. Ava raised the triplets alone in Atlanta. She worked through exhaustion, pregnancy complications, and judgment. People asked questions. She gave no names. She finished her doctorate while rocking 3 babies to sleep. She taught her sons discipline, empathy, and pride in who they were, Black boys in a world that would judge them early. At night, when they slept, she sometimes cried. Not because Victor left, but because she once believed he wouldn't. She never asked him for money. Never chased his name. "If he ever meets you," she told the boys, "it'll be because life decided, not because I begged." Life decided. Victor postponed the merger. The board was furious. He flew to Atlanta. He learned how to braid hair clumsily, how to read bedtime stories in 3 different voices, how Noah copied his posture naturally, how Eli asked questions about markets and numbers. Ava didn't celebrate. She didn't cry in relief or run into Victor's arms. She waited. Because trust, to her, was not built on speeches, it was built on patterns. Weeks passed. Then months. Victor stayed. He attended parent-teacher meetings where other parents stared. He learned how to protect his sons without over-explaining their identity. He listened when Ava talked about racism the boys would face, without defending, without minimizing. One evening, after putting Micah to bed, Ava said quietly, "I didn't need you to save us. I needed you to stand with us." Victor answered simply, "I know. And I'm here to learn how." That was the night Ava finally let herself believe him. Not because he was rich. Not because he was famous. But because he had changed consistently, not dramatically. The triplets eventually asked the hardest question. "Why weren't you there before?" Victor didn't blame fear or pressure. He told the truth. "I was afraid of choosing love over approval. And that fear cost me years with you." Noah nodded slowly. "That's a bad trade." Victor smiled sadly. "The worst one I ever made." Eli asked, "Are you scared now?" Victor shook his head. "No. Because now I know what matters." Micah hugged him without words. Children didn't need perfection. They needed honesty and presence. 2 years after that first meeting, the family returned to Beijing, this time together. Same hotel. Same floor. Same restroom. Victor washed his hands. 3 boys lined up beside him, exaggerating his movements on purpose now, crossing arms too hard, sighing too loud, making faces. Victor laughed, openly, freely. Ava leaned against the doorframe, watching a man she once loved finally become someone she could respect again. Noah looked up and asked, "Dad, if you could go back, would you change anything?" Victor thought carefully. "I would still make mistakes," he said. "But I would never walk away from you." That was the ending the boys needed. That was the ending Ava needed. Victor didn't win the story. He earned it. He didn't rescue Ava, he respected her strength. He didn't claim the boys, he built a relationship with them. He didn't conquer love, he submitted to it. And Ava didn't forgive him because he was powerful. She forgave him because he finally understood that love isn't proven by regret, but by consistency. Final image. A man once feared for his control. Now admired for his humility. A woman once abandoned. Now standing by choice. 3 boys who once copied a stranger. Now calling him dad, not out of obligation, but trust. Years later, people would still talk about the day Victor Liang disappeared from the kind of power men usually die holding on to. Business schools debated it. News outlets rewrote the story 100 different ways. None of them understood the truth. The truth lived in a quiet suburban street just outside Atlanta, where the sound of running water and children's laughter mattered more than stock prices. Victor's mother flew in from Shanghai unannounced. She had opposed Ava from the beginning, quietly, firmly, the way powerful women do when they believe they are protecting tradition. She sat stiffly on the couch, hands folded, eyes sharp. "These children," she said carefully, "they will complicate your legacy." Victor didn't raise his voice. "They are my legacy." Ava stood in the kitchen doorway, saying nothing. The triplets entered the room, respectful but curious. Noah bowed slightly. Eli offered tea. Micah hid behind Ava's leg. Victor's mother watched them closely. Then, unexpectedly, Micah stepped forward and held out a drawing. It showed 5 figures holding hands. One was darker. One taller. 3 small. Underneath, written carefully, "Family." The older woman's hands trembled. That night, she said nothing more. Before leaving, she placed 3 red envelopes on the table, not money, but handwritten letters welcoming the boys by name. It wasn't perfection, but it was acceptance.